Welcome, Gunrunner.
Hello everybody, Kieran aka The Laird here, and I'm back with another little book preview for you of one of my own books. You might remember that about a month or so ago, I think it was now, I did a video giving you a little look at my Atari 7800 games book that's now on Kindle store on Amazon, and I now have the follow-up up, which I did talk about at the very end of that video. I mentioned that I had another book coming out, which is an Atari XE games system games book, and this is it, of course. So I wanted to do the same again, give you a little preview of what's in the book, what it's about, and yeah, so we'll go through it really. Obviously it follows a very, very similar concept to the 7800 book in terms of the way it's laid out, what it's about, but it is slightly different, which I'll go into. So obviously we've got our introduction, as before, and then we go into the Atari XE game system story, which is where it's different to the 7800 book, because I've decided that it would be nice to put the history into this book. I may actually do a revision of the 7800 book that does the same. I was thinking about maybe doing that. Because I quite liked how this turned out, so I've put the history of the system in here as well, so you can read about how it came about, you know, why Atari decided to make it. It's often been, a lot of people are confused about why they made the Zegs, as I call it, and you know, what that console's all about, and a lot of people think it was pointless, and this very much explains what the thinking was behind creating it. So then we go into game reviews, of course, as you'd expect. And yeah, so we start off with actual XE game reviews. So when I say actual XE, we're talking about the blue box XE branded games like this Eastern Front here, rather than games that are just compatible with the XE game system, because of course Atari made about 50 odd games that were branded like this with the XE. I absolutely love the XE boxes. They're really good. They're much bigger than 2600 and 7800 boxes. They really stand out. They look awesome, I think, with the blue colour, and the logo really pops on them. It's a really nice design. So basically, yeah, so we go into that. So obviously it's in alphabetical order, so there you go. It starts off with Ace and Aces, Airball, goes on from there. And as before, like there was with the 7800 book, there is 2 screenshots for each game. And a score, and obviously who made the game, what year it was released. With a lot of these, obviously the release year is the release year of the XE game system version rather than the release of the original, because obviously Ball Blaze was previously a disc release that was later released on cartridge. So as before, I didn't want to go through the whole of it because I don't want to spoil it, so I've skipped to the end of that chapter, because after we look at those XE specialised releases, we go into XE prototype reviews. Now, I say this book is laid out slightly different to the 7800 one, and it's in these review categories, as you'll start to see, where it differs, because I had to be a bit more creative in terms of how I named the chapters for the XE book, because of the nature of the system and how it's games were released and stuff. So when I say XE prototype reviews, this is just games that were meant to come out in these blue box XEs. So Atari announced them as releases for the XE, but never released them. And in some cases it was conversions. So for example, Xevious there, which I put a picture of, there was an existing Atari 8-bit version of Xevious. It's likely that that's what they would have released under Trammell era Atari for the XE, but it may have been a brand new version like they did with Mario Brothers. So then that starts off with Commando. It's probably one of the most famous XE prototypes, and such a shame that it wasn't released, because it is such a good conversion. Easily the best of the 8-bit computer versions. Really, really close to the arcade. And then goes into Deflector. And there's others. in there. So I'll skip forward to the next chapter. And then you'll see we have re-release reviews. Now, basically what this means is these old Atari home computer games that they did in either the silver boxes or the earlier black boxes, where they re-released them with these big labels on saying also plays on XE game system. I mean, that was one of the reasons why the XE game system was created, was to help shift the piles and piles of inventory that Atari had in their warehouses for the Atari 8-bit, especially in terms of cartridge games. And that's why they re-released these and just literally slapped these stickers on the boxes. And most of the games they released on cartridge previously for the Atari 8-bit computers, the obviously 400, 800 and XL, were re-released in this way with labels on. There's some that weren't. So I've covered all the games that were re-released in this manner with those labels on the boxes. So obviously they're starting off with Asteroids, Basketball, Caverns of Mars. I mean, I have all of those myself with XE stickers on them, Centipede, and so on and so forth. So again, I'll skip ahead a bit onto the next chapter. So then we go into homebrew reviews. So this again is quite specific terminology I'm using here. Very strict in terms of the way this category is defined. So the homebrew reviews is strictly games that have been released on cartridge. So obviously there's tons of homebrew out there, absolutely tons, for the Atari 8-bit, but most of it is you just download that game and you stick it on your flash device or emulator and play it that way. But there are some games that have actually been released to buy on cartridge with a nice box and everything like that, and will work on an XE game system. So that's what I've done here. I've taken those games that have been released like that, like Space Harrier, easily one of the most impressive games written for the Atari 8-bit in any era, that has actually been released on a cartridge for people to go and buy with a box and everything. They did a limited run with the author's permission. I can't remember who it was now who handled it, but they did do a run of it. And it obviously starts off there with Adventure 2 by Atari Age, which is another one. Atari Age have published a few. Burger Time is another. There's Albert by Retronics. They've released quite a few as well that work like that. And Atari Blast, again, easily one of the most impressive games ever written for the Atari 8-bit. So again, I'll skip ahead a bit, so I don't want to spoil the whole book. So now we have third-party compatible reviews. So what this means is literally third-party games for the Atari 8-bit that also work on the XE game system. And that second part is important because there are some Atari 8-bit games, early releases, that don't work on XE machines because of the way the chipset is slightly different in the XE and the way it's designed. So there isn't full compatibility with XE computers. There's not that many games, but there are some, and it's because of the way they were written. And I think all of the ones that don't work on the XE are third-party titles. Yeah, so there's a couple by Imagic, there's a couple by Synapse certainly that don't work. I can't remember if there's any others, but I'd have to look at the list again. But there are quite a few anyway. So we go into them. This category I should add as well. I don't cover every single one because there are absolutely tons of third-party cartridge games. So I've really covered kind of probably the more well-known games and certainly the better games. Most of these are really good games. So obviously, picture there, it's River Raid as Antietam starting off there. A game by Ed Freeze, of course, father of the Xbox, as he's often known. Beam Rider, Activision. Obviously, there's quite a lot of Activision stuff in there. Boulder Dash, another famous Atari 8-bit game. Buck Rogers by Sega. Bounty Bob Strikes Back. So there's all sorts of stuff there. Congo Bongo by Sega. Decathlon, again, Activision. So lots of stuff there in that category. So I'll skip ahead again. So then we go into compatible prototype reviews. You'll see what I mean now by the very specific categories within this book. So as it says, these are Atari 8-bit prototypes that have been released on cartridge. You can go and buy. Quite a lot of these are from My Atari, released these, and they will work on XE game systems. They're prototypes from the earlier years, from the 400, 800 XL years, but they will work on the XE game system, because not all of them do. There are a few of those early prototypes actually that don't work on the XE, but all of these ones do. So that's what that means. So it starts off there with a picture of Berserk's animated puzzle by Atari there. Berserk, obviously the feature picture there. Blaster, another more famous one, of course, by Eugene Jarvis, Junior Pac-Man, and it goes on from there really. So I will skip ahead again to the next section of the book so I don't ruin it. So then that's the end of the section, but it's also the end of the book, because then I just go into a page showing you also available my Atari 7800 games book, of course. So that is it. That is the Atari XE game system games book. So I will tell you a little bit more about this book, and it is all on the Amazon page as well. So there we go, on the Amazon page there for the book. So it is $3.99. That's the UK price. In dollars, it's $4.49, and I think the euros price is the same. I think that's €3.99 as well. But it's available worldwide, so you'll find pricing there for every country. So as it tells you there, the book features over 250 pages with reviews of all 34 XE specific titles, prototype games, third-party games, stickered re-releases and homebrews. There are over 120 cartridges reviewed in total, with 2 screenshots for each game, as well as technical information and the story behind the creation of the XE game system itself. So there we go. A lot of content in there, as you can see. Certainly most of my old Kindle books weren't that size, or anywhere near that size. So there we go. And I've just noticed actually someone has reviewed the book, which is good. I didn't realise that wasn't there when I looked the other day. So someone obviously liked it and did give it a 5-star review, which is nice to see. But you can get a preview of it there as well by clicking the view inside. So that's it really. That's the Atari XE game system games book, Kindle edition. I know a lot of people, when I did my video of the 7800 games book, a lot of people said to me, am I going to do a print version? I said I may do. It's very unlikely I'll do a print version of this, and I'll just explain that actually. I didn't mean to explain this earlier in the video. But I'll tell you why, because the XE game system games book has quite a bit of content which will lap over with my Atari 8-bit compendium, my print book that I have. So I don't really want to do a print version of this, because if people bought both, then they might be annoyed that there is carryover some of the same reviews. I think roughly half the reviews that are in this book were also in my Atari 8-bit compendium, which of course is this book right here, which was in hardback and paperback, which is one I did with Andrews UK. So Compendium Atari 8-bit Games Volume 1. So say roughly half the reviews in the XE Games System Games book can also be found in a Compendium of Atari 8-bit games. This is a print-only book. It is only available in print. There are still some available on Amazon, but this book is going to be discontinued completely soon because I'm replacing it with a new edition. So there's going to be a second edition of a Compendium of Atari 8-bit games, new cover, and more content. So this book had 260 games reviewed in it, which I think it says there in the description somewhere. But the new version of the Atari 8-bit compendium will have 300 games reviewed in it. So I'm adding a load more content to it. Otherwise, it will be pretty much the same. It will still have the same interviews in it. I'm debating whether to add a fourth interview. I probably won't. I'll probably leave it as is. But I'm working on that at the moment. Just print books are a lot more work, and I haven't got much time on my hands at the moment. What with my kind of other work, and also I'm moving house fairly soon as well, so I have a lot going on. So I can't tell you when the new version of that book will come out, but it will be this year, probably within the next few months. I hope to have it out on Amazon to buy, and I'm sure that if you haven't already bought this compendium, you'll love the new one that's coming, because it is slightly revised as well. I have revised a few of the reviews and stuff in it, polished it up a little bit. It'll have a different layout as well, because a few people didn't like the layout in the old one. So I have listened to your feedback, and I've got a lot more input into how the new version is done, because obviously before I just supplied the text, the publisher did everything else. It was the design and everything was up to them how they did it. But the new book, I'll have a lot more control over how it's done. So yeah, I mean, even if you bought this book, you might want to buy the new one just for collection purposes, or the fact because it's going to have loads more content, as I say in it. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed my video review, more like a preview really of my new Atari XE game system games book. I've been the Laird. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon. Bye bye.